Indian Removal Act was a law that was signed by President Andrew Jackson on May 28, 1830, authorizing the president to grant unsettled lands west of the Mississippi in exchange for Indian lands within ex- existing state borders. A few tribes went peacefully, but many resisted the relocation policy. During the fall and winter of 1838 and 1839, the Cherokees were forcibly moved west by the United States government. Approximately 4,000 Cherokees died on this forced march, which became known as the Trail of Tears. In this act, there was a famous court case called Worcester versus Georgia. Worcester versus Georgia deals with Georgia state laws that were passed in the middle of the 1800s. These laws were passed following an agreement reached between the Cherokee tribe and the state government of Georgia. The laws instituted a prohibition of non-Indians from living in Indian territories. Only non-Native Americans with special permission from the government were allowed to live on these lands. The case begins with missionary Sam Worcester and his family, which was wife and 5 fellow missionaries, refused to move from a land that was labeled an Indian territory. In addition to refusing to remove, the group refused to apply for the government license that would allow them to reside on their lands. Because of this refusal, the army entered the Native American lands and arrested Worcester along with the other 6 people. Following his arrest, Worcester appealed his charges and took his case to the Supreme Court. Worcester versus Georgia began on February 20th of 1832. The case was filed by Worcester, who claimed that his family was forced to be removed was a violation of his constitutional rights. He believed the state of Georgia overstepped their boundaries, for they did not maintain jurisdiction to enforce the laws within the native land. Worcester v. Georgia was decided on March 3rd of 1832 by the United States Supreme Court. Chief Justice John Marshall, who was the judge who presided over the case, ruled in favor of Mr. Worcester in Worcester v. Georgia. Chief Justice Marshall believed that the state government of Georgia did not have the power to enforce a law within the lands that were not within the jurisdiction of the state. The Supreme Court, though, through Marshall, also stated that the interactions between the Native American tribe and the state of Georgia must be considered an approach as international talks. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled in favor of the Worcester because they found the state to have violated his 14th Amendment rights. 14th Amendment does not allow any government in the United States from blocking a citizen's right to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. Furthermore, Worcester v. Georgia also dealt with the Due Process Clause, which refers to the government's obligation to maintain and respect these legal rights. President Jackson disagreed with the decision and did not enforce the decision against the state of Georgia.